What's up? This your boy Wyclef Jean, and y'all watching Impact Theory. Let's get into it.
I love Tom. There's a man who is just on a mission to find the best in humanity and then make it known to the world.
It was honestly like one of the best shows I've ever done in my life. You know, allowing me to be authentic to who I am. This show allowed me to do that, so it was great.
You better subscribe to this show because you're missing out. It's absolutely unbelievable.
It was a lot of fun. I was really impressed with the prep work and was able to get into things that I actually care about.
Most people don't put in that type of work. And to know that he does that, not just for me, but for everybody.
I totally get why it exists. I totally get why it needs to continue to exist, and I almost didn't want it to end.
I'm Amelia Boone.
Hi, I'm Peter Diamandis.
Hey everybody, my name is Jessica O. Matthews.
Hey, I'm Dr. Drew.
This is Gary Vaynerchuk, and you're watching Impact Theory.
Welcome everybody to After Impact. This is the show where Tom Bilyeu and I unpack the impact of the episode. This week with Olympia LePoint. And guess what? You're starting with me because Tom is over here. We're having some microphone issues that we're trying to get sorted out. So you're stuck with me for a few moments. Thank you for joining us on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. This is the show, as you know, where we go deep. We ask questions about the episode, and we really try to understand the ideas that were expressed. Ask your questions. We're doing it on Friday this week, which is atypical. We usually do this show on Wednesday, but we wanted to try this time out to see if this gave you a little bit more time to watch the episode, think about it, digest it, and then really join our conversation and ask your questions. So let us know in the comments if you think this is a better day for you, or if you prefer it on Wednesday. We would love to hear. All right, our guest this week is Olympia LePoint. Hopefully you checked out her episode. It's pretty incredible. Her story is super inspiring. She started, what she is now today is a rocket scientist. It's just a little bit distracting, but that's okay. Really trying to focus with you guys. She's a rocket scientist who launched 28 missions, helped NASA launch 28 missions from years 1998 to 2007, and she essentially helped those missions not explode. So she is a mathematics expert and also a rocket scientist. She's also a public speaker currently who inspires audiences all over, and she's the author of the books Mathophobia and the newly released Answers Unleashed. So definitely check her out if you get a chance. But she didn't start that way. She started in a very different place. She grew up in South Los Angeles, and now I think the microphone is in front of the camera. So now you're really having fun with us here. She grew up in South Los Angeles in very difficult circumstances, single parent home, didn't have a lot of opportunities growing up, and she essentially built her life from that starting point and has an amazing story about what she did to her mind and her decision-making process to get there, and we're going to dive into that as soon as we get the mics situated. But until then, we'll just say thanks again for joining us. A couple of quick announcements that we have going on. So this week we launched the Alexa skill on Amazon, the Amazon Echo. So if you have an Amazon Echo or an Amazon Echo Dot, go and enable the Tom Bilyeu skill. You can now get motivation from Tom in your flash briefing every single day. It's going to be recorded, unique content that you can't get anywhere else. So if you have one of those devices, go check it out. We're really investing in voice because we think there's a lot of opportunity there, and it's a new and exciting platform. And we think that's the direction a lot of things will go. So if you have one of those devices, please go check out the skill. Tom has a microphone now.
Hey everybody. I feel like an old school sports announcer. I am Howard Cosell today. It's good to be joining the show.
What was great
This
was
is amazing.
as I was trying to give the announcements, like everything was literally falling apart right here off camera.
Yeah, it was incredible. You did a very good job. I'm super impressed.
It went from bad to worse.
It did go from bad to worse. Yeah. So last minute changes are always very dangerous.
Yeah.
And lesson learned.
We learned, yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so those are our announcements. Alexa skill, and this is a new time for After Impact. So if you enjoy it, please leave that in the comments. If you'd rather have it on Wednesday, let us know, and we can kick it off. So I want to talk about, Tom, Olympia's story. If you could give a quick recap of kind of where she started, and then just hear from you why her story and stories like hers resonate with you so much.
Well, this is super interesting for me on a personal level because she grew up. So the kid that I used to big brother for is a kid named Rashawn, and he grew up in the exact area that she grew up in, South Central, right around USC. It was really cool to hear her tell that story about part of what became that beacon of hope for her was that she saw the kids going to USC, and so she knew there was something else. She knew there was like something beyond her circumstances, and if she could like grab on to that thing, which, you know, education, then she might be able to get out of her circumstances. And that was how I felt working with Rashawn. Like I wanted him to see that there was another world, and it's interesting. I never thought of this before, but it's a lot like when people talk about, okay, there's more dimensions than the 4 dimensions that we think of that make up, you know, space-time, right? And I'm always like, how the hell do you, like, how is that possible? How can there be something like right here, right now, and I just don't see it, experience it, whatever. And that is, for her, growing up right by USC, that's it. Like, outside of the walls of that school, you were in one of the worst areas in the country. Yeah. But inside the walls of that school, you're in this just beautiful campus, this place of unimaginable knowledge. And I mean, this was when I was there, it was before the internet. So it was like having all these libraries and so many books. And you felt like, for any Game of Thrones fans out there, you know, you feel like Sam, who's at the, you know, studying to be a maester, and it's like all these books, and in a time where that was just incredibly rare. Exactly. Yeah. So for her to be that close to an entirely different world or an entirely different dimension, if you want to think of it like that, is really, really fascinating. So it becomes this beacon for her. So when I think about what we're trying to do at Impact Theory, it's to bring more people inside that wall, to make content that's available to anybody, that anybody can access, and then get out of their circumstance, to move from one dimension to the other, to understand that there's a permeable membrane between all of this, and that membrane is your mindset, and that you can, I don't know, I'm going deep on this like biology thing here, but you can like cross the membrane, right? And it's actually very, very easy. It's very, very simple. It's not easy. And it takes an incredible amount of work. And she is a story of somebody who put in that work. And so this story resonates with me on a lot of levels. One, it's so familiar to me, the places that she's talking about, the people that she's seeing. And then on top of that, she is exactly the kind of person that I want to reach. And I used to refer to this when I was back at Quest as mining for astronauts. I got so close. If I'd called it mining for rocket scientists, I would be losing my mind right now, because that was like my thing of, these kids could be the next astronaut. They could be the next Einstein. They could be like whatever they want. There's unimaginable raw, I hate using the word talent, but I don't have humans as a data processing machine, as a machine, as something that's capable of being programmed to do extraordinary things, but they have to be programmed, right? And so whatever software they get will determine the effectiveness of the hardware, but the hardware is unbelievable in its potential. Yeah. And it really was in this time that I became obsessed with this notion of, there's a difference between having potential and then doing something with it. She's done something with her potential. And so that's what I find so extraordinary. And to give people a little more detail on her story, so grows up in the inner cities, was not like somebody that she's not like that undiscovered 190 IQ, right? Like she really struggled, and she failed algebra, she failed geometry, she failed calculus and chemistry. And through all of that though, begins to think like, okay, I still failed, but I feel like I'm getting it. I feel like I'm beginning to understand something that I didn't understand yesterday, that if I take people up on their offers for tutoring or whatever, which is one of the stories she tells in the episode, that I feel like I could really do something. And so she keeps putting in the work and putting in the work and putting in the work and never getting discouraged by how seemingly bad she is. And that's so cool. Like, and man, that is what makes her extraordinary. Like somehow she was able to see through that, to be excited about getting out, to be excited about what she could learn enough to fight through to actually gain the skills.
Yeah, I love the story. And I want to go a little bit deeper on environment and the role that it plays. And like you said, when you were doing the Big Brother program, you were trying to bring that person into a new environment. And it sounds like that really flipped a switch for Olympia, and seeing, people at the university, and then later going on to when she was able to go to the magnet school in a different neighborhood and seeing that neighborhood. And I know that it's changed me on levels too, of just going from, growing from Bakersfield to then moving to a bigger city like Los Angeles, or even in your experience coming from Tacoma, Washington, and then coming down to Los Angeles. So what do you think it is about really changing your environment that can completely reframe how you think about the world?
What an unexpected and lovely question. So when I was right before I met Lisa, I was going to move to New York. And this was sort of the height of, I don't know how the hell I'm going to break into filmmaking. Like, where am I going with my life? I don't want to be a teacher forever. Like, what do I do? And there is something so innate to humans to want to change your environment, to have some drastic, and maybe not for everybody, because most people live and die 3 miles from where they're born. I cannot believe that's true. And then I think about my parents who spent, with a brief exception, it's very cool. They lived in Japan for a while. Oh, wow. So my dad was in the military.
Oh, that's right.
My sister was born in Japan, as weird as that is. But they, until my dad recently, when he retired, then he moved quite far. But until then, they lived, my mom still lives walking distance from where she grew up, which is crazy town to me. And my dad lived very, very close. So some people have that thing, me included, where when you feel lost, hopeless, whatever, your instinct is radically change your environment. And part of it is the sense of adventure, and part of it is just understanding that we all respond to our environment. We all respond to the people that are around us. And there's for me, it was intuitive, because I didn't have a clear sense of my emotional state is built by the people that I'm around. I didn't understand that, but I knew that I just want to change. Now, the problem is when you change, your mind follows you. And if you don't understand the process of intentional rebuilding, you're going to find yourself in the same loops. So, and that being echoed in my own life, I didn't end up leaving, but I changed the person that I was spending the most time with. And then we got into this really virtuous cycle of self-improvement, which I may not have ever gotten into had I not met Lisa. So, changing the people that you hang out with, I think is certainly more important than changing the environment, but often changing the environment intentionally or otherwise changes the people.
Got it. Yeah, it's correlated. I see. I also want to talk about education, because one of the things that really helped Olympia was going, she said going to that magnet school, and she described it as, then I was around geniuses. I was around people who were brilliant. I was learning from them every day. She was learning at the school, and then she later got tutored by someone in calculus. Is education also a method to sort of change your circumstances? And talk about the differences now between the traditional educational path and other sources of education.
So give me the exact words you used for the first part of the question. Is it changing your environment?
Is education the way to change your circumstance?
So it can be. And here's what I find really interesting. I don't think there's a one size fits all to the answer of the education conundrum. I'll call it a conundrum. So for me, because I was so lazy, going to school and having crushing expectations was part of what allowed me to buckle down and really work hard. So there was a confluence of things happening in my mind. One, I had cheated my way through high school, and that didn't make me feel good about myself. It didn't make me feel bad, though, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It didn't make me feel good. And I had this sense of, okay,
Did you feel like you were learning in high school, though? Or were you just kind of going through the motions?
No. I felt like I was young and stupid. Let's really start with that. So I'm not reinforcing what I believed then, but this is what I believed at the time, that they weren't teaching me things that I cared about or was going to need in the future. So I felt this like the arrogance of being young and saying like, these adults don't know anything. They've totally lost touch. Like, why are they making me learn this? And in fairness to kids, like if the teacher doesn't know how to explain why it's going to be useful, like that's really, I think that's a critical thing. I think teachers, man, if you want to have a major impact, stop and really come up with true and amazing answers to why do I need to know this? Yeah. And by the way, like, don't be afraid. If the answer is you don't, then those are the things that we need to change. All right. I don't want to go too far afield. I'm not an expert in that at all. But so this is where my mindset was as a child. They're not teaching me the things that I'm actually going to need. And I had a very strong sense when I was younger that getting to understand people was really important. And so I felt like I was getting to understand people, that I was spending my time engaging with other people. So I wasn't just sitting in my room listening to music. There was a lot of that, but I was also like connecting with people, spending a lot of time talking on the phone, like admittedly partly because like it was mostly women and like I was terrible with women, but nonetheless obsessed. But in that I really got into because when you're the nice guy who listens, you become like the place everybody goes to like deal with their major dramas. And at the time, I'm thinking that the best way, I will bring it all back around. I'm feeling like the best way is to get laid is to like read Cosmo and understand women and listen to their problems. And like I was Captain Friend Zone. But in that, I actually spent an obscene amount of hours, like really trying to listen and understand to people that were going through significant turmoil in their life. It was the first moment where I got introduced to how many people are contemplating suicide. And so like going through that process and all that was very interesting. So this is all like going on in my head. But when I go to college, I'm like, okay, well, I have picked a major and a school that is supposedly going to teach me exactly what I want to be great at. And I'm going to be taking on debt to do it. So like, if what you were saying in high school is real, then you need to buckle down. And if what you were saying in high school was bullshit, you need to buckle down, right? Because either way, if I was just being lazy, taking on debt and not paying attention to the thing that I supposedly care about wouldn't make sense. And if it was real and now I'm learning the things that I actually want to learn, then I need to actually learn it. I need to actually get good at it. And I did have a sense of when I get into the real world, and I'm grateful for this, and I have no idea why I believed this to the core of my being. It may have had something to do with stand-up comedy where you're either funny or you're not. I knew I actually have to get good at film. Like I actually have to be good. And if I'm not good, I'm going to be in real trouble. So I better really pay attention. So getting there was very much a way of changing my circumstances and getting me to think and be in something else. And then the second part of your question was
just the differences between the traditional educational route and
so
other sources.
Here's why this is a real conundrum. So like I was saying, for me, it was I needed that structure. Not necessarily everybody does. But I needed this structure to make sure that I buckled down and really began to learn. For somebody who's self-directed, self-guided, you're probably like a self-starter entrepreneur. You're way better off. Just go actually build a business. Go intern, go like work your way from the ground up. I learned way more about filmmaking by doing it. And I learned way more about business, Jesus, by a factor of 100 by doing it than anybody's going to learn. I've talked to MBAs who are fresh out of school and they know fuck all. So it's like, and I get it, right? A, it's hard. B, it's not the majority of the teachers won't have spent their time building businesses. You do get them for sure. And that has to be unimaginably useful, but it's still a very protected, safe environment. It is not the market slapping you around and telling you that something does or doesn't work. It isn't employees where you are not able to help them actuate themselves within your company. And so there's all kinds of problems that are breaking out because of that. So there's just no substitute for actually doing it. But that wouldn't have worked for me because I wasn't a self-starter yet. So I needed that. So when I spoke to, so I was interviewed recently by somebody that took on $825,000 in debt to become an orthodontist. And that is so terrifying. I can't imagine ever encouraging somebody to do that. In fact, I'll just say right now, if you're taking much north of like $100,000 in debt, like it doesn't seem worth it. God, maybe for a lawyer or something, but like if money is meaningful to you, how about that? If living a life that is devoid of money stresses is meaningful to you, I don't see how you make it work.
Yeah. Cool. We're about 20 minutes in. I want to remind everyone we're doing Facebook and YouTube Live for After Impact. We're talking about Olympia LePoint in her episode that aired on Tuesday. We're doing this on Friday. We don't typically do it on Friday. We usually do it on Wednesday. So if you prefer it on Friday, let us know in the comments so that we can change up our schedule accordingly. We wanted to give people more time to actually watch the episode, digest it, and then have some thoughts to participate in the comments. But if it's just too many days and now it's past you and you've forgotten all the lessons learned from that episode, then go back and watch the episode.
There you go. And one option is to write down your questions as you're going through the episode so that you have them there.
I also want to comment on the shirt you're wearing, which
Yeah,
I just
buddy.
realized is a unreleased shirt.
This isn't released yet?
No.
Oh, man.
Unreleased.
And like mad love to Will, who designed this bad boy.
Yeah, it's
Respect.
a great shirt.
I like this.
So that's a little teaser, everyone, for the coming. We have a new collection launch happening in a couple of weeks. So you'll be able to get that shirt and a few others that are pretty awesome. So
And we did a really cool photography session. I don't know what else to call that. For the clothes, which I'm really, really excited about. Do we have Lindsay's, can we drop that in like the comments, her website? So this is somebody who's a fan of the show and she actually wrote in to say, hey, I've already done these photos. They're already featured on the website from the previous photo shoot she did.
yeah.
We were all like super blown away. Even the story of the model that she used was unbelievably cool, very impact theory. And she wanted to do something more to really help and show her support, which is just absolutely incredible. So please, boys and girls, let's drop her website into the feed because our debt of gratitude to Lindsay knows no bounds. She's been really, really incredible. And then just yesterday, she did a whole photo shoot with Lisa for Lisa's social feed. And I've seen exactly one photo from the back of the camera. Holy hell. Like really, really cool. So she's a very talented photographer that we're super honored that has been so gracious for us.
Let's drop her social handles in there too so people can go follow her.
I just punched myself in the mouth with the microphone.
Instagram handle. Cool. All right, here's a question from Manuel Orsonio. And this is a question that I actually had as well. Tom, do you agree with Olympia about focusing on the negative to see what we must avoid?
Here's the thing. She's bringing it up in terms of rocket science, and so I am not going to say that I know anything about it. So if she tells me that you need to focus on the negative for what could go wrong in the case of rocket science, absolutely. In terms of your real life, no. I think that people should be utterly surprised when things go wrong. Why? Because I'm trying to combat the natural tendency for humans to obsessively think about things. So you're not just going to quickly run through how things could go wrong. You're going to obsessively go over and over and over and over how things could go wrong. And that's what leads to anxiety. And so when people obsessively think about all the different ways that it could go wrong, you're prepared for it, but you're now hardwiring anxiety. And that is so much more detrimental than planning for the bad things is positive, that 100%, like people should be focusing obsessively on all the ways that it could go right. And so they talk about in race car driving, your car's going to go wherever your head goes. So if you look at the barrier, you will crash into the barrier. It's Guaranteed. So you have to just ignore the fucking barrier and look where you want to go. You will steer towards that. And I think in life, that is absolutely true. And I get it. On paper, it makes sense to think through all the eventualities. And people that are high in conscientiousness, which according to Vanessa Van Edwards is exactly that, like thinking through all the ways that things could go wrong, pre-planning, making lists, all that. But it just isn't how you grow and accomplish something extraordinary. It's just not.
She did say one thing that I thought was an interesting nuance to that comment, and that was it can be a tool for, if you don't understand what you want, then looking at what you don't want could be a way to say, okay, well, this, I want the opposite of this. So it's a way to sort of narrow down. So what do you think about that? Saying like, I don't, like, where do I want to be in 5 years? I'm not really sure. Well, let's think about where I don't want to be in 5 years. I can definitely identify those and then work backwards.
What ends up happening from that in reality is people do nothing. And until you know what you want, until you are chasing something with hunger and desperation. In fact, I was just recording Alexa content, and I talked about this concept, which I was reading about, and it's an echo of 100 other people have talked about this, but reading about in Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday, this concept of you will never create a masterwork until it is no longer a want, it's a need. So if people don't even know what they want, let alone have turned it into a crushing need, something that they must bring into this world, you will never get there. That is the truth. And look at the world. How many people are actually doing what they want? It is vanishingly slim. Vanishingly slim. And the reason is people don't take the fucking time to understand you're not going to turn in and see something that, oh my God, I've wanted this whole thing my whole life and I just didn't realize. Like, that is such horseshit. You're going to turn inward. You're going to see a minor area of interest. If you don't do the work to turn that into the blazing inferno that is your need, then you're never going to need anything. In which case I'm going to fucking derail for a second. This is something that is so interesting to me, and then you will bring us back. The way that people think I have tomorrow, the way that today is so finite and so like just like another day, and tomorrow will have more potential. People don't create the momentum in their life. And I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this. Bear with me, because I really want people to understand this concept. You're getting fucked by the fact that today seems so inconsequential, that today is just one of many, and that it's a Friday, and you know what, like, I'm going to hit it hard on Monday. And that sense of like, it's so just one of many, that people don't buckle down and say, I have to do this right now today. This is why, like, when people use the word patience, I go fucking crazy. I want to crawl out of my skin, because you will lull yourself into this sense of like, I got something done today. That's great. But you know what? I need to be patient. I need to understand this is going to take a lot of time. Dude, it's going to take a lot of time if you go balls to the wall every day, going all out like a freak, trying to make everything happen right now. It will still take a long time. So if people don't put that kind of intensity into developing a passion, into developing something that is like a crushing need, like it has to happen, every day will lull them into this sense of tomorrow, 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 tomorrow. And so they never fucking do anything. You've got to, every now and then, I've said this to you before, every now and then I'll have a terrible night's sleep, because when I'm going to bed, I am so enraged by the need for sleep, because I get it. I need it. I understand that. But I resent so much that I need to stop doing the things that I'm doing, because I want to do them. They're fun for me. Like, I enjoy it. And I want to make sure people understand that, because when they hear me like go off on this, they think, oh my God, like this, he's like demented, and like, oh, I feel bad for, I love what I do. Yeah. So, and I end up having a bad night's sleep because I so resent it that I'm waking up like every hour. Like, can I get up yet? Can I get up yet? Can I get up yet? Find that thing. It's going to be an area of interest. Build it into a fascination. Build it into a passion. And then every day, go after it so hard, because if you don't, it will slip into this endless tomorrow.
That's amazing. What would you say to someone who maybe is not obsessively thinking about a moonshot like something as grand as your vision, but is very happy with their day-to-day, what they do in their job, in their life, with their family, or whatever it is, and they're content.
That you're already there.
They've won.
Like there's nothing else. Yeah, they've won 100%. Like understand that I'm talking to people that aren't where they want to be, don't know where they want to go, right? So they have this sense of, I'm talking to me at 22 with my face buried in the carpet, feeling lost and hopeless. And that feeling sucks so much. I would have done virtually anything to get out of that. And my whole life has been moving away from that and moving towards what I want to create. Like that's it. And it's that dual action of making sure I never feel like that again, and then loving what it feels like to. So I bought the domain probably almost 15 years ago now, Seeking Power. And if people didn't misunderstand what I mean by the word power, the name of this company would be Seeking Power. And that is that position of realizing that you can actually gain real skills that actually can change the world. And I don't mean that in like the grandiose sense. I just mean it can actually incrementally make things better. And that is a position that is the greatest gift that a human can ever receive, is to feel on an emotional level how powerful that is. That wherever you want to go, you can make it happen.
Love it. All right. I think I want to do a quick announcement about our upcoming contest. We haven't launched it yet.
Let's do it.
But here's the deal. We just crossed 100,000 subs on YouTube. Thank you, everyone on YouTube, everyone who's subscribed there. It was a great and big milestone for us, and we're very appreciative. But we're not going to sit back and chill. So we want to go harder. We want to blow this thing out as much as we can. So we're launching a contest that is a referral program. So it's refer a friend to Impact Theory. And we have a big prize. You want to talk about the prize?
I do. So first of all, let's talk about why 115,000. So we celebrated 100,000 on Facebook. Our Facebook and our YouTube are very, very close to each other. It didn't make sense to celebrate both. So the goal that we set for ourselves, which was much more aggressive, was 115,000 on YouTube by October 1st. And this is where you have to be really honest with yourself and look at what's happening. So we had a lot going on the last couple of weeks, and our contest we had originally planned to do a contest to 100,000 on YouTube because psychologically people just get it, right? So even Lisa today was saying 115 is such a random number, but it's the true number. And so we were going to do the contest to get to 100, hoping that we would blow past it, that the contest would be successful enough that we'd blow past it and be working our way towards 115 by October 1st. And we realized, you and I sat down and said, we're not going to make it. And you'd run the math, and it was like, okay, given our sort of just organic growth, we'll be at about 108,000 by October 1st. And when you set goals and then don't do something to achieve them, like that trains either your nervous system, or in this case, it would train the team. That we set a goal, but hey, if we miss it, no big deal. Like we had set a goal to have the first comic books out in October, and I can already tell that's not going to happen. I'm going to beat the shit out of myself for that one because that's on me and it's not on anybody else. So I can't even like give you guys a hard time. So don't think that will go unpunished. So we set a goal to hit 115,000 by October 1st. And for anybody that's new to the community, the reason that is so important is booking the show is very, very hard. And poor Dr. Finesse has that role sitting squarely on his shoulders. And his big ask for us is every person that we get into specifically YouTube, because that's where most people go when he reaches out to somebody's agent or whatever and says, hey, we want to get you on the show. They immediately go to YouTube to see how many subs we have. And every day that number is, I'm just going to say less than 1 million, you've got a problem. Mm-hmm. So to get the show where we want to get the show, to have the kind of impact that we want to have on the world, blah, 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 like we have to get those numbers up. So that's why 115 by October 1st, it's very important to have a goal that is attainable but hard. So 115 was attainable but hard. 100 was not only attainable, it was a foregone conclusion. In fact, I think we're already at like 102,000. So didn't want to throw it in the dirt, didn't want to like 150. And then it's like, there's just no way we're going to reach it. And so nobody even tries. So 115 seemed like the real number. So the giveaway, so when we did the 24-hour Impactathon, we tried to give away a whole bunch of stuff and people kept trading it in for time with me. So what we want to do, the main prize is, and this is to our global audience, so anybody, anywhere out there, the prize is for referring friends. Every time that you refer a friend, you get one more of your name entered into the hat, essentially. So the more people you refer, the more entries into the hat, the more likely you are to win. And it is a flight to Los Angeles to spend a day with me and a night's hotel accommodation. So that's the grand prize. And we have two runner-up prizes, which is a prize pack, which you probably know the details better than I do.
Prize pack, it'll have Audible subscriptions, an Echo Dot, books, swag, Impact Theory swag. So we're putting that together now. But the contest is really how far can we go with this? And 115 is our internal number, but like that's not where we're stopping. That's just, the contest is going to go, I think, for 3 weeks. We're going to go as hard as we can and as fast as we can to really share this content with a larger audience and help more people.
Word. So yeah, 115 is sort of, if we don't hit that, we have officially failed.
Right.
So,
but details to come. So check in on Facebook, check in on Instagram. We'll be launching it today. We don't have everything pulled together yet, so we can't send you anywhere now, but we will have it soon. We'll probably drop it in the description to this video later as well.
Word up.
Nice. Okay. Not too many comments or questions coming in today. So guys, if you have questions about the episode or other questions around some of these ideas, please drop them in the comments so that Tom can answer them. Here's a question I have for you. So one of the things that Olympia credits to her success is that she had people in her life who believed that she could have a different future. So the first was her mother, and then I think it was someone at school, or maybe her tutor, who said that, the story about the surgeon or the doctor who sewed her face up after she was cut or punched.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think that the reference to the because in the intro I say she was stabbed in the face. She was stabbed in the face, and either she doesn't say it. I think we cut it out for some reason. But when she got punched, the kid had been sharpening. He had a ring, and he sharpened it. So, and this is like at 10, and he was in a gang, which is crazy, but happens.
Yeah.
And so when he punched her in the face, it like lacerated her cheek right below her eye.
So if you haven't seen the episode, she goes to the doctor to get sewed up, and he says, I did this in a perfect straight line so that one day when you're on TV and you're telling your story, it's not going to look as bad. It will just be a nice straight line, or you could cover it up somehow. And that just like totally flipped a switch in her brain that, oh, one day I could be on TV.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool. So what is it about having people in your life who can paint that different future for you?
I mean, this is my obsession with belief system, man. Mm-hmm. Like the movie The Matrix is about one thing, belief. When Neo doesn't believe he can make the jump, he can't. Now, that's not really important. What's important is that is a true representation of what humans are really like, which is what makes that movie so great. It really captures the human experience. And when a doctor, which so she and I are roughly the same age. So when we were growing up in the 80s, first of all, doctors were like revered. They were like the ultimate in success. And I remember in the 80s, you essentially, like if you wanted to be rich, you either got into film and TV or you became a doctor. Like that was just the notion. I had no idea. I didn't even know what a banker was. I didn't know what finance was. Like I didn't understand any of that. So, but you understood a doctor. So when a doctor told you something was possible, like they were the height of intelligence, they were the height of success. And so for a doctor to say to her, like what they call a presumptive close when you're on TV, right? Yeah. So it's just assumed that it like whatever hurdles there are between her and TV, they're gone. And he didn't say if one day you're ever on TV. He said when you're on TV. And she just thought, whoa, like I could be on TV. That's crazy. Like how cool is that? So that's one of the things that really sits at the core of impact theory is getting people to believe that a future is possible for them. So making sure that people, and this is why it's so important, and Lisa's just like obsessed. You want to talk about a need? She has a need to show young girls a new future because that was something she did not have as a kid. So really making sure that people see themselves, that they see that someone like them can go on and have that kind of success is just incredible, because it lays the foundation of a belief system which will infiltrate every thought you have after.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's something that it's part of the culture here, I would say, is that we talk about things like, when you're talking about the company, when we're bigger than Disney, when we have this many people in our community, when we're changing people's lives in this way. And it's a very subtle thing, but it's very powerful.
Will you let me like go off on that for a second?
Yeah.
You can't imagine how many people I meet that they're like successful. They've accomplished stuff and they're bigger than us right now. And then I go and speak to them and I can see like I am making them rethink what they're capable of because we're smaller than them, but our dream is so much bigger. And they won't even let themselves say out loud that they would want that same thing. And I can see this dual conflict of, do I think this guy's an idiot, or am I inspired by how big he's willing to think? And because I say things like that, and I say them with confidence and I'm totally assured of it, only not because I actually like know somewhere in my heart, I just know that's how the mind works.
Yeah.
And if I don't say that, reinforce that, believe it, act in accordance with it, keep pushing forward, like it won't happen. And when you think about self-sabotage, all self-sabotage is you're getting either nervous about the fall, right? So, well, if I get that far, because everybody knows that life is ups and downs, right? So if I get that high, like I'm terrified of falling down, or I'm terrified of being disappointed, or like they're just scared. Like there's some thing in the lizard brain or wherever it resides that does worry about like putting yourself into the position of being the target, right? So if you're the alpha, well, there's always somebody coming after you. And some people they don't want that life of stress. And so there's always going to be that voice that tells you couldn't do it. There's always going to be the voice that says, yeah, that is absurd. That person that wants to like go for that, that's ridiculous. But I can't say this fucking enough. And I want to become known for the following statement. Humans lead with belief. We lead with belief, Jared. You can't do something that you don't believe is possible to figure out. When I say that we're going to be bigger than Disney, I'm not saying I already know fucking how to do it. I have no idea. And I know I'm going to get lost 100 times along the journey. I fucking know that. But what I know is humans are capable of getting the information that they need. And if you believe that you can learn what you need to learn in order to become bigger than Disney, then you actually can. So being relentless in that and pursuing and going after it and having that need that is crushing it so you keep pushing, like that's how this shit happens. And people they don't allow themselves to acknowledge that you have to force yourself to believe that you can figure it out. And without that, they never go anywhere.
That's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about how you cultivated that way of thinking? And I think at one point you mentioned Peter Diamandis, and I may be totally misinterpreting, but helping you think even bigger than you were already thinking.
Yeah, reading Bold and Abundance. Dude, my biggest mentors in life have been authors. Mm-hmm. And I had read Peter's book. I wanted Peter on the show because I'd read his books. And I was like, holy hell, the way this guy thinks is unreal. And when you understand that he launched the X Prize without the prize money, he launched the X Prize without the prize money, but he was just convinced that if he stayed at it long enough, hard enough, that he could find the money. And he does. And I mean, it launched the guy started 19 companies. It's crazy. And they profitable and big and just, it's nuts. He's raised at least $1 billion. It may be multiple billions of dollars for the different companies and is it's nuts. Now, how did I cultivate that? Because Peter was sort of one thing in that journey. And what I think makes the way that I think useful to other people is I have always tried to figure out what is real. What is real about the human condition? So humans lead with belief. That's not fake it till you make it. That's fucking real. It is how humans work. So I'm not saying it should be that way. I'm just saying it is that way. And if you don't believe that you can learn it, I want to make sure people understand that. I'm not saying believe you're the best in the world. You're not. But you can become the best in the world, because the human is an adaptation machine for a very simple reason. Nature makes a decision with every creature that it creates. Am I going to hardwire this from the beginning, right? A foal, I believe that's how you say it, a baby horse, comes out, can already walk. Humans cannot. So they made the decision, cool, we're going to hardwire this. But that means that it's limited in its options moving forward, because so much of its brain is taken up with hardwiring. Humans, on the other hand, are malleable. So we can go in any direction. But that means that we're born a lump of flesh that has to be taken care of and looked after for years and years and years. It's crazy, but that gives us this amazing ability to pick a direction, to go in it, to change direction, go in another direction. So we're like the ultimate blank slate. You're not entirely blank, I get that, but it's so much more compared to other animals. And so to fail to take advantage of that, to me, is just the ultimate waste of potential.
Great. All right. Let's see here. Here's a question. So Olympia, she failed in math for many years, and she continued to study it. And then she felt like she was really making progress and learning. And then I believe she gave her all and failed on her AP test, right?
Yeah.
And then she decided, well, I'm going to keep learning more. I'm going to keep pushing. So is there a time when you step back and say, do I continue pushing toward this, or do I pivot to something else?
Yeah, I think revisiting that very frequently is probably a very wise idea. And anybody that's an entrepreneur certainly should be asking, is this a skill set that I acquire, or is this a skill set that I partner with somebody? Yeah. And so Lisa and I are a great example of that. You and I are a great example of that, where it's people with complementary skill sets that it's like, I'm not drawn to managing, and thinking through that process and really going, like, when I thought, the day that I realized that there's a difference between being a leader and a manager it was exhilarating and depressing at the same time. It was exhilarating because I could see the solution to a problem I'd been creating for myself in business for a very long time and had not understood it. Because when people resonate with the way that I am, dude, you're not going to find anybody better, more encouraging, all of that. But the problem is, the way that I encourage is by holding you to a ridiculously high standard and annoying the shit out of you by never flagging on, this is the fucking standard. Like, we got to do it. And constantly bringing people back around to the mindset. But the vast majority of the world does not resonate with that from the jump. And they need somebody to like really like walk them through, create processes and procedures to help them like go from one point to another. And because I'm so hell-bent to do something with my own life, like I'm just not drawn to that. So that's why when people like call me a teacher, I'm always like, that's not fair to teachers. Because teachers, like, they're willing to go on that journey like step by step and really like
in the trenches.
Yeah. And I'm just not. Like, I'm going to be over here fucking running and hopefully inspiring the shit out of you and showing you what it's about. But I'm going to give you like the straight reality. This is the fucking situation. And now you either deal with it or you don't. And so there are countless people that have pulled me aside, and what they needed was a manager. And they pulled me aside and they said the following: I want to be you in 5 years. And then I made the mistake of not recognizing what they really need is somebody to really create that path and all of that. And so then I gave them like that leadership, like, cool. All right, motherfucker, you're here with me on the floor. Watch how I work. Watch the standard that I hold myself to. Hold yourself to the same fucking standard. All you have to do is keep up, right? That's your job right now. Mm-hmm. And they would leave that meeting crestfallen, because it wasn't what they were looking for. And feeling like I didn't hear them, feeling like this guy's a dick. And so after I had done that enough times, I started saying, don't say that, please. Like, understand that all I do when people say that to me is I now instantly hold you to my standard, and I externalize my internal voice. And for most people, that's not a lot of fun. So that's to bring it back around to your question, like I had to realize that was not a skill that I wanted, but it was such an important skill. Somebody on the team had to have it. So you always need to be like checking yourself against that. Like, what are the skills I want? What are the skills that like I know are critical, but I'm just not like, it's not my personality. And understanding that there's a big difference between roles and something being more valuable. So being the CEO is a role. It's not more valuable. And just the other day, like if you guys, and I was saying this to the team, if you've ever seen that, it's usually done with politicians, right? They show like a plank and the politician standing over an abyss, and the populace is usually how it's drawn, or standing on the plank, keeping him from falling, and that if they scattered, he would fall. The same is true of a CEO. Right. Yeah. You are standing out there and you are able to do what you're able to do because you have an amazing team that's keeping you from falling into the abyss. So I'm just so hyper aware of that. So I know my role is not more important. It's just different. And so you've really got to make sure that you have the people with the right skill sets, or that you develop it yourself.
And in Olympia's case, I mean, she wanted to, maybe, I don't know if she knew at this time, but she was on the path to becoming a rocket scientist. You have to be exceptional at math to be a rocket scientist. So someone in that scenario where it's like, this is a skill set they need in order to do the thing that they want to do in life more than anything else, but they're not good at it. What do you do then?
Well, it's super interesting. And I don't know what drew her to math because like she was saying, she didn't set out to be a rocket scientist. So I don't know. My gut instinct is what drew her to math is it was hard, but attainable. And that's like that sweet spot for humans. It's like the 115 goal, right? It's got to be hard that when you get it, you're going to be like, fuck yeah, we did this, right? But it can't be so hard that you just don't even try.
Right.
So do you know who Ted Kaczynski is?
Yes.
Who is he?
Isn't he the Unabomber?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what his rampage was about?
Didn't he want to like bring government back to a basic level? Or
No,
something?
he was bombing universities. And the reason he was bombing universities was he believed that they were solving all of the problems in the sweet spot. And that if universities kept on at their current rate, there would only be easy problems that nobody gave a shit about and really hard problems that were just too far. And so nobody could ever get that like amazing, I did it, man. Like I worked really hard. And that's one of those like where the evil guy in the movie, you're kind of like, he makes a little sense. You know what I mean? And so like, look, the Unabomber is just straight fucking crazy. Yeah. But what he was saying that humans had, like there is this sweet spot of, man, that was hard, but I feel so good about myself having persevered and gotten to the answer. He's smack bang. And so my gut is that's where math was for her. And then when you go to look for a job, it's like, oh, well, how does math really turn itself into a really cool job? And that's how she ends up at Boeing.
Nice. Here's just a general question about the episode, and you've sort of touched on it already, but what is it about her mentality that was most impactful to you from this episode?
What I love about this is if you really go back and listen to it, this is not a tale of somebody with natural talent.
Yeah.
This is a tale of somebody who found that sweet spot where things were hard, but she could do it, that persevered. She had to borrow $1.35 to go every day on the bus. And if I remember right, it's 2 hours each way to get to the tutor who was going to help her get better at math. And I think it was a teacher, made the announcement to the whole class, hey, anybody that wants to come, you know, these are my hours. And she was the only one that went. And she assumed the whole class would be there.
And everyone else lived right there.
Yeah.
In the neighborhood.
So that to me, like understanding that, and that understanding that she then becomes a tutor and confesses to the person hiring to be a tutor, I don't know how to do this. And that person is like, don't worry, sit with them, read the book, learn it with them. You'll be surprised like how advantageous that will be for them. Mm-hmm. And then that ends up being advantageous for her. And so her life is all about learning. And then she gets hired at Boeing, feels like she's in over her head. She sees this one guy whose name was Zhao. Something like that. She corrects me in the episode, and I fucking forget again how you say this poor guy's name. Zhao, maybe. It's close. Yeah. It's in there. And she sees that he is brilliant, but just has too much more work than he can do. And she thinks, okay, I'm exhausted at the end of my day, but I'm going to stay and I'm going to help him in the hope that he'll teach me. And he does, and he takes her under her wing. And informal mentorships in jobs, by the way, are like so correlated to happiness in your job, not formal ones, which was very eye-opening for me as the person that, as the CEO, is tempted to like force people to be in a mentorship relationship.
Can you describe the difference real quick?
Yeah.
How
So
you see it?
if I say to you, okay, Chase, your mentor is Jared. Jared, you need to mentor Chase. That's very different than Chase sees that you're overwhelmed with a bunch of stuff. Or, I mean, this is literally Will's life. Goes, all I know how to do is move chairs right now, but I'm going to get in the world with people. Gloms onto you, realizes that he wants to learn marketing. You take him under your wing. You like get him doing projects that are way over his head, but like you're super patient with him and you really work with him. And now legitimately, I'll fucking put Will in a death match on IG with like some heavy hitters in the world of marketing, like for real, legit, like no question. We all turn to him and he's like a kid. He's just a kid. And by the way, he moved to America like a couple years ago, which freaked me out. I was like, say what? Because he was like, oh, I got the hookup back in Vietnam. And I'm like, what do you mean you have a hookup in Vietnam? He's like, I just moved here from Vietnam, which is still too bizarre for words for me. But like that was incredible to watch that happen in real time. And that was informal mentorship. So I think there's just a deeper connection when you know you don't have to do it, nobody's telling you to do it, and that it went from like knowing each other to really working with each other because you're connecting, right? Because there's like there's something there. And that trust and that connection, not everybody connects with everybody. So when it's informal, it's because the two of them like found some bond, something together, like she found with Zhao.
That part of the interview really struck me because it's not even mentorship. It's like you said, the word bond, like she connected with somebody. And then she said, we had each other's back. And there's no better feeling when you're working on a team, when you know there's people there. Like, you have my back, I have your back. We're going to learn and grow together. We're going to, as a team, like accelerate that much faster. Individually, we'll accelerate because we're all sharing knowledge, helping each other, teaching each other things we didn't know. It's really cool.
Really cool, really powerful. And yeah, I mean, those are magical relationships. And so I have a somewhat funny story that has nothing to do with business or anything. I was living at my mother-in-law's house. She wasn't my mother-in-law at the time. She was my fiance's mother, amazing human being. And she was having carpet replaced. And I remember, and the guy was there doing it, and she comes up like flustered, and she's like, will you come, the carpet they're trying to put down is like all messed up, and I just need you to like back me up because the guy's saying there's nothing wrong with it. And so I'm like, hell yeah, like go downstairs. And my mother-in-law has really had to learn to stand up for herself as, you know, a divorced woman with 3 kids. And like, she just really had to learn to be tough so that people didn't take advantage of her and all this stuff. And she's also just incredibly sweet. So when you look at this woman, like if you're a bad person, you're going to want to take advantage of her. She seems like an easy mark. She is not, I assure you. But she had to train herself into that. So I go downstairs and I look at the carpet and it looks fucking perfect. And she's like, look, see, like, look at all the lines in the carpet. And I'm like, fuck. Like, I'm really trying to see what she's talking about and I just don't see it. And the carpet looks perfect. And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe it. Cause I got to have her back, right? Yeah. And to know that somebody's going to go to bat for you, like even when internally they're like you may be off base on this. It is a great fucking feeling. And that's why I talk about in a marriage, like, man, you should feel like they're number one. You should know that they're going to have your back no matter what. It's a really good feeling.
Awesome. Here's a question from Opal Ridge Homes. Can I, as a parent, get trapped in what happened to Olympia when the doctor said she would be on TV? I think that the doctor was too specific on her possibilities.
I get what she's saying. Like, you're painting a vision that may not be authentic to that person. I think if we all sort of reach into the minds of the doctor, first of all, this is back in the 80s. So being on TV was like unimaginably cool. It's not like now where there are other outlets and all that stuff. And it was just him, I'm sure, trying to be sweet about, you're going to be as beautiful as people on TV. That's all he was really trying to say. And whether it should be or not, that's very meaningful, especially to young women. And so, yeah, I don't, inevitably, unless you follow Carol Dweck's advice and always reward only the process and never like the talent or anything like that, there is for sure, like when you tell somebody, like I'm sure somebody told me I was funny when I was a kid, and that sent me on a spiral into wanting to be the funny guy. And I know for a fact that part of what turned my interest in filmmaking into a fascination, it's not what turned it into a passion, but what took me from interested in filmmaking to fascinated by filmmaking, my dad said, I think you're actually better behind the camera than you are in front of the camera. And I thought, really? So then when my friends and I would go out with the camcorder and film stuff, like I thought, yeah, like I am the one that knows where to put the camera. So I'll start putting the camera, and none of my friends wanted to do it. So, and that, like, he said that to me when I was 12. And the funny thing is, when I tell people I've known I wanted to be a filmmaker since the time I was 12, every time I think of my dad saying that, because that was like that thing that like put it on my radar. So there's no question, like little weird offhanded comments like that can really echo through somebody's life. And usually it's negative. Usually somebody accidentally says something like, wow, your braces look weird. And then like you fucking derail forever and you think you're ugly. And that's a terrible example, but we've all had like that weird offhanded comment that like stuck with us for years and years and years. So you do have to be careful. Reason 462 why I don't have kids, butterfly effect. I'm terrified that some random comment echoes.
But that does bring it all around to what you were talking about in the beginning of this, which was your environment and the people who you're around are super important.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, especially when you're young, dude, it is crazy town how it just slowly creates a belief system in you. Yeah, it's nuts.
Awesome. Well, we are out of time for today.
All right. Well, guys and gals, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing. I apologize for hand-holding the mic, but actually, hopefully the diehards in the crowd get it. You just got to keep moving. So we didn't miss a beat after we got things all held together. So yeah, that's it. Move forward. Even when it's imperfect, doesn't matter. Thank you guys for joining us. And that, by the way, it's a great episode for this to have happened on, because that is Olympia's whole message. Like, just keep going, keep getting better. Yep. Don't worry about failures. Just keep pushing, get that knowledge. So yeah, this was a great one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget that we've got that contest kicking off, so keep your eyes open. If you haven't already added me to your Alexa daily flash briefing, go do that right now. Just tell your Alexa to add Tom Bilyeu to your flash briefing, and she should get it immediately. If not, go into the app, search for my name. There I shall be. I record content for that. I don't record it daily, but we've got daily content. It is recorded specifically for that day. So go out and get on that. It's pretty cool. All right. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Take care.